who is joining us virtually. Engage us on our social media platforms at KTN News KE, at George Maringa _. The hashtag is News Center for all your questions and thoughts to my guests. Now, the official Labor Day celebrations is being held at State House here in Nairobi. We will be bringing you the live proceedings here on KTN News. And even before it starts, those are some of the live pictures that you can see right there. The choir, of course, being led by June Ogola, who are perhaps prepping for the celebrations that will be happening today at State House, Nairobi. Remember, this is a second Labor Day under a pandemic, and we shall be bringing you the live events. Of course, last year, you'll remember, we did see President Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as COTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli, and other government officials lead the celebrations from State House Gardens. Indeed, State House choir entertaining guests who have already converged at State House Gardens for that special, rather Labor Day celebrations, which will be led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. And we have, of course, seen COTU Secretary General, that is Francis Atwoli, acknowledging the special songs and dances from the choir that is right there, State House choir, in preparation, or rather ahead of the Labor Day celebrations at State House, Nairobi. Indeed, those are live pictures from State House. Now to that conversation I told you with my guest, that is Ernest Nadome, who is the first Assistant Secretary General of the COTU Kenya, who will be joining us virtually. Nadome is the former chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Kenyan Defined Contribution Scheme. He is also the Secretary General of the Kenya Electrical Traders and Allied Workers Union, KETAU, a position he has held for the past 16 years. Also joining us in studio is George Masese, who is the Head of Legal, Industrial Relations and Membership at the Federation of Kenya Employers, FKE. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on KTN News.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I will begin with Ernest Nadome joining us virtually. Ernest, it is the second Labor Day under a pandemic. First of all, what is the meaning of this day for thousands and millions of Kenyans who work daily? What is the significance of this day for Kenyans? Ernest, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was muted.
Yes.
Yeah. So saying first and foremost, we need to put things in perspective about the introduction. I think I'm not the former, I'm still the chairman of the Kenyan peace scheme and various other policies of holding. And from the trade union side, I'm the General Secretary of the Electrical Workers Union and also the First Assistant Secretary General.
Indeed.
Now, coming back to the question you've asked, Labor Day, which is also referred as, and that should be the way it is an International Workers' Day. This is a day that workers are supposed to take stock of what they have done for the last 1 year, their achievement. Ideally, that is what it's supposed to be. But going back to the history of Labor Day dates back to the 1880s, where workers in America came up and said, no, enough is enough. Because they used to work for 14 hours plus. The terms and conditions of service of work were bad. Then they said no. And that is why there is the famous 8-hour movement. They agitated, they advocated for fairness in terms of the number of working hours they should work. And that is how the issue of they succeeded in making sure that they work for 8 hours. We go for recreation for 8 hours, in the 8 hours. And I think over the years, since then, we've continued celebrating this particular day.
Mm-hmm. Right. George Masese, thank you for joining us. He's here in studio. First of all, it is, as I said, the second year in a pandemic, the second Labor Day in a pandemic, but we have seen so much in terms of what has changed on workers and also employers, and I'll be going back to Ernest for more. But on your perspective, what is this Labor Day for you specifically from FKE as the Federation of Kenya Employers? How different is it this year?
Thank you, George. First of all, allow me on behalf of the Federation of Kenya Employers and also the employers in this country to wish all the workers a happy Labor Day today. Basically, Labor Day is a celebration whereby we honor the services of the workers that they have given in terms of making the economy grow. As my brother Nadome has said about the history of Labor Day, of course, it started a long time ago because of long working hours, and they wanted to reduce the number of hours, and that's how the major strike that led to the Labor Day celebration. Mm-hmm. For us employers, the industry cannot run if we don't have employees. And therefore, it is our time as employers also to celebrate the people who are making these industries run. It is their day to honor them, mm-hmm. and to celebrate what they have done so far for the industries. For the 2-year running, yes, we've had the challenges of the COVID-19, and of course, we've seen the celebration. Really, the workers of this country all over the world, maybe they may not be celebrating as they used to celebrate before. Mm-hmm. It is a different celebration. Of course, as employers, on behalf of employers and the Federation, we feel really what the employees are undergoing at this moment. But I must celebrate them for one thing again, that they have remained resilient to support the business to remain resilient, because you said our theme has been to have resilient business enterprises, but then those businesses cannot be resilient if employees are not resilient. And therefore, on behalf of FKA and employers, I think we need to celebrate the workers for the support they have given, more so during this period of COVID-19. We support them.
Right, but George, experts last year warned of long-term effects, corona effects on workers. You say we should celebrate workers, but workers themselves don't feel celebrated and appreciated. I'm talking about, there have been so many, in the last 1 year, second year now, the word pay cuts, redundancy, job losses have really been rampant, and you've seen what effects they have had. So to what extent have you seen, ever since we started in 2020, that is last year, what are some, or to what extent have employers have had to restructure their workforce?
You see, the pandemic, the effect of the pandemic really does not, how can I put it? The effect of the pandemic when it came, you know, we were not prepared for it in the first place. Nobody was prepared for it, not only in Kenya, but worldwide. Nobody prepared for it. And it's unfortunate that after the previous instances that we've had, I think in 1902 or something like that, that we did not put mechanisms in place so that it can actually address the issues of such kind of instances of pandemics. But all that said and done, the thing is, the businesses have been evolving according to the circumstances. We've seen government coming in to support the workers and the enterprises. Of course, you saw the tax incentives that employees were given by the government. We also had what we call a memorandum of understanding that was signed between the Federation of Kenya Employers, KOTU, and the government. What was it for? It was meant to protect the security of jobs of these workers. So for the employers of this country and all over the world, the first thing has been that this is the time to be in solidarity with the employees of this country and all over the world, not only in Kenya, to support, to secure their jobs going forward, and also to provide the basics. What have we done? You could see in the areas of social protection, that has, of course, been expanded by employers. They have, of course, ensured that they support the workers, both those who are not working. Of course, you saw the measures in terms of working on a rotational basis, the effect of social distancing, and all that. So when these things are in place, the enterprises must survive for posterity and for future, because when the pandemic is over, these businesses must also employ these people again. But we've seen that the first thing that was on the table was that job security was very key. The issue of job cuts, so in terms of redundancy and layoffs, really did not occur so much during this period. We saw, of course, salary cuts. That salary cuts were meant to sustain these employees during this pandemic period. We thought that after the first wave, we thought that this pandemic is over.
Right.
And now again, the upsurge of the second wave and the third wave, and then the government again went to put in more measures, of course, locking down the 5 counties together and all that. Now, what has been disrupted is the supply chain. And you see, when the supply chain is affected, the businesses are affected. And then how do you expect now the businesses then to support fully all the employees at workplace? So it has been a challenge. And that is something I think we've been asking the government during the third wave, or when they locked down. We've been asking the government, is it possible that maybe you can also reintroduce the incentives so that we can cushion these employees again, it's sliding back to poverty.
Right.
We don't want to lose.
Yes. And we'll be coming to those mitigation measures. But let me bring in Ernest Nadome, who is from KOTU, the First Assistant Secretary General of the Central Organization of Trade Unions, Kenya, KOTU. Ernest, in 2019, we did see the KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli ask employers to raise the minimum, rather recommend a 15% wage increment. But last year we saw the KOTU advocate for employers to engage their employees and trade unions in advocating, or rather before they even implement pay cuts. What do we expect perhaps this year as we mark this Labor Day from KOTU in terms of even safeguarding and advocating for workers' rights? Ernest, could you unmute? Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you very much. First, I think, let me echo the words of my friend George. It's true that for the first time, the employers and employees in this country have joined forces in really seeing how they can bear or withstand the effects of this pandemic. And that is the main reason we are alive to what is happening. Over the years, we've been giving demand to the government, and as you rightly put, in the year 2019. And it's also historical, which to me, we want to change the ballgame. We want to change the narrative where when workers are here every day, a big chunk of the community, it's not about celebrating the production. They would want to hear what is it that the Minister for Labour, what is it that the government is going to announce for their wage increment. And I think, and all this also, it boils down to the actual situation of the ground where, and it's unfortunate, not the fact, but quite a big number of employers cannot give an employee a salary increment until there is that yearly wage increment, the minimum wage we are talking about. So this is where we are coming from, and that is why these particular employees rely so much on this particular announcement during Labor Days. So for us as KOTU, as I mentioned, that the issue of the pandemic has affected everybody, the entire society, employers, employees. And that is why last year, what you witnessed last year, there was no Labor Day celebration. What happened is our who raised the occasion with the set up, and we have also that this around being the same. But even as we do that, they conduct this particular Labor Day set out, we as workers, it's not that we're expecting any announcement, not at all. What we are fighting for, or what we are campaigning for, is really job security. I'm not just put very well. The issue is about job security. And last year when this pandemic came in, I'm happy to report that the employer, the government, we sat down and we came up with a very beautiful memorandum where we agree it's all about job security. How can we retain jobs? And we agree employers who are the muscle to protect the employees. Let us continue, but those who could know, we agree that the employees be sent on unpaid leave, but not be sent home. Has this really happened? Yes, to some extent. But as you put it, I think this bad way has really hit employers and employees very hard. The previous waves, the first and second wave, they are all aware that there was this stimulus package.
Right.
That the government brought in. And it helped employers, businesses, it also helped a few of the employees. But this particular that way, it is not there at all. And that's why this third wave, besides now hitting Kenyans, their lives, where losing so many Kenyans, it is also affecting the livelihood. We had issues of the tax relief. We had the stimulus package given to businesses. But this third wave, I think we are just to live from our own.
Yes,
It's
Ernest.
unfortunate. This is the situation that we are in.
Yeah, Ernest, we will get. Sorry to cut you short. We'll get to the effects of the third wave, and moving forward, probably may even have a fourth wave, fifth wave. We've seen what has happened in other countries. But I want to bring in George, because we have seen that there has been so much disruption of employers, most specifically employees' rights.
Yes.
I'm talking about pay cuts. I'm talking about firing and redundancy. How has this, or rather, to what extent may employees have lost, or rather, how have employees, quote unquote, lost their rights? And because we've seen this coming in, they are being thrown in anyhow. You hear companies even, going for up to even 70%. I know of people who have even undergot 70%. But is it that employees have lost their rights?
Thank you, George. I think the issue here is not about really the rights they have lost, but how has employers balanced the rights of employees in terms of not violating any right. So at the moment, we are not talking about violation of rights, but we are talking about the support, the social support of employees, and also the economic recovery of these enterprises. Of course, we are aware by June last year, we had 1.7 employees who had lost their jobs.
Yes.
We know also that employers had also lost a lot of manpower from employees who are participating in strikes, let's say in the public sector. We saw all those instances. But at the moment, I think it will not be fair if we said that, or we talked about violation of rights. The thing is, to what extent, as the private sector and the public sector, mostly the private sector, has it contributed to extending the social rights of these employees during the pandemic. Reduction of salaries actually was there was a framework, as Nadome, my brother Nadome has said, there was a framework on how to do it. And this was brought because we knew that if enterprises are not able to sustain, then they could have actually resorted quickly to redundancy. Because redundancy is a situation whereby it is brought by the fact that an employer is not able to sustain a certain wage bill, and therefore certain positions are done away with. So during this period, we didn't see that as a way to go. And quickly we went into draft a guiding principle under the social dialogue mechanisms and also Section 10(5) of the Employment Act to draft a policy framework called an MOU around that, which was gazetted actually by the government, so that the employees can accept a renegotiation of terms during this period. Yeah. Why? Because this pandemic period, all of us must swim through until the end. If we push the employers to actually operate or pay at the optimum level, then it means very soon this enterprise may not even be able to sustain itself.
And notably so because 83%
yes.
of Kenyans, working Kenyans, fall in the informal sector.
Yes.
So moving forward, are we saying that because of a pandemic, I mean, of course, we've been told that it is the new normal.
Yes.
Should we, is it a grim picture for employees and